first I would like to thank Dennis to invite me to Cambridge to discuss my project with you. Now we talk about the kinetic isotope effect and then transition state analysis of RNA decurination by submarine L3. So if you have any questions, you can stop me and ask during the talk. Submarine L3 is one of the ribosome activating protein. And it catalyzes the decurination of the adenine for the GHG loop of the conserved GHG loop of the ribosome RNA. And so the elongation factor cannot bind to the ribosome. And therefore the protein translation will be stopped, causing cell death. And there are two different types of the ribosome activating protein. And type 1 contains only catalytic HN. And it has a molecular weight of 13 kilodalton, just as a separate, which I will talk about later on. And type 2 contains catalytic HN and also the lectin-like B chain. And so there we also have the using different mechanisms to enter into the cell. Like the type 2, and it delivers into the cell by binding the B chain to the glycoprotein. And after translocating to the Golgi and ER, and A chain and B chain will separate, and only A chain is delivered to the cytosol. And with the type 1, it delivers into the cell via the transferrin-dependent mechanism with the help of the saponins. And so since due to the lack of the B chain, type 1 is less toxic than type 2. But once it will become very toxic once it gets into the cell. So the type 1 and A chain of the type 2 are used to prepare the immunotoxin by being to the antibody and which can recognize the antigen of the tumor cell. And it's also now there are a lot of studies have been reported, and the most commonly used is the saccharin S6. And since 1983, the saccharin S6 has been purified for the saponiferous seed. And in 1992, the first of the clinical trials have been studied. And so far, there are a lot of clinical data have been reported about the saccharin S6. But the problem is the vascular link syndrome is the most common side effect for the immunotoxin therapy. Because once they kill the tumor cell, and it can damage to the normal tissue. And so in our lab, we try to use the transition step theory to design the powerful specific inhibitor to turn off the enzyme once it kills the cancer. And so first, let me see what is the transition step. And in a reaction, the reactant needs to cross the barrier and to go on form the product. And the transition step is the step in which the new bond is forming, and then the old bond is cleaving. And it represents the point of the highest free energy in the reaction. And so for the energy difference between the reactant and then the transition step, we're calling the activating energy. It indicates how fast the reaction can go. And usually, if you lower the activating energy, and then the reaction will go faster. So in an enzymatic reaction, the enzyme will increase the reaction by lower the activating energy. And so here in the right diagram shows the enzymatic and non-enzymatic reaction for the substrate to the product. And so for the kinetic, the dissociation constant for the transition step can be calculated by the dissociation constant for the substrate and also the ratio of the two reactions. And so usually in the enzymatic reaction, the enzyme can increase the rate by 10 to 15 fold. So therefore, the enzyme binds to the transition step structure. It should be at least 10 to 10 times tighter than the substrate. And so the transition step set theory and predict that the enzyme has very higher affinity to the transient set structure. And so since the transient set is a very it's not very stable, so let's see how fast the transient set can last. And so in this time scale, and for the turnover number for the enzyme, KK, and usually is in the second range, and then for the protein, it will make the motion and in the microsecond range. And so let's look at the transition set lifetime, and in the picomolar second. And if you still cannot imagine how fast it can go, and if we consider the transition set life is 1 cent, and for the turnover number, it will be 5 million. And so since the transition set is very fast and also is very not stable, so how can we get the structure of it? Now, we just try to design the inhibitor, and which is similar to the transition set, and which we call the transition set analogs, and also the inhibitor, transition set inhibitor. It's very stable molecule, and is in the geometrically and also electronically similar to the unstable transition set. And so here in our lab, we try to measure the KIE of the enzyme first, and then with the quantum mechanism calculation, and you can model the bond length and also the bond angles of the transition set, and also the electrostatic charge on the surface. And so far, we have the two very tightly binding inhibitor. One is called emissing edge, and another one is steadily emissing edge. And both of them are in the picomolar, the binding the constant. And also both of them is already in the clinical trials. And on the right, the picture, it shows the inhibitor and also this transition set. And so if you look at the electron density, potential density, and you can see these two, the inhibitor is very similar to the transition set. That's why it gives you the dissociation constant, the Ki, is in the not picomolar range. And there's one new inhibitor is even better in the femtomolar range. And if you look at the Km, is for the binding to the substrate, and then Kd is the binding to the inhibitor. As you can see, the binding to the inhibitor is very tightly. And so in this study, we are trying to use the sapropyrin L3 as a model. And sapropyrin L3 is for the saponaria leaves. And we have known it can cleave the silane bond between the adenine and also the ribose. And we know the product is adenine and the ribose with the RNA. And so we would like to get the structure of the transition set and also do the subcloning the protein in the E. coli or yeast. And so if you look at the activity, and then for the sapropyrin L3, it's about 3,000 times higher than the sapropyrin S6. That's why we choose the L3 as a model. And so for the previously study, sapropyrin L3 is very toxic even during the plasmid maintenance. And after you transform the plasmid to the E. coli, and you cannot see any colonies on the plate, or you see some colonies is the mutant because it's so toxic it can kill the E. coli. And so now we are trying to use the PPICV alpha B as a vector to express the protein. And in this vector, it uses the xylosine as antibiotics. And also it has a heat set to purify the protein. And most importantly, it uses the protein is very, the expression is very tightly regulated, and the LX1, the promoter. And once the protein is expressed, and it can be released to the medium and with the alpha factor. And so with these two factors, and so the protein can be expressed. So first, the sapropyrin L3 with the PCR reaction, and these two restriction sites will be introduced. And after digest alpha B vector. And after purifying, you can see for the Western blot and also the SDS gel, you can see the protein is about 72 kilodalton as expected. And you can get the pure protein. And since there's no cysteine in the protein sequence, and so we try to introduce one cysteine, and so to link to the antibody for the future studies. So there, the blue color shows the active, the ligand in the crystal structure, and is in the active side. And on the other side of the active side, and there are 4 residues was chosen to be mutant to the cysteine. And so first the A14C infused in the structure is purified with the nickel column in 200 millimolar linazole. And so for the SDS, the Western blot, and then confirm this peak is the protein. And it can form the dimer with the other protein by disulfide bond. That's why here you see 2 bands. One is the 13-2, another is the 16, around 16-4, because they form the disulfide bond. And so with enough reduced reagent, the protein, the disulfide bond is cleaved, and then that's why you see here you have the 32 kilodalton the protein, and in the SDS gel and also the Western blot. Now we get the we purify the protein. Next we need to see the substrate. And so here choose the green color is the rising A chain, and then the dark color is the substrate. So you can see the substrate is much bigger than the protein, and because in most of the cases the protein is the substrate is very smaller and is in the active side, so it's easier to design the inhibitor. But since we cannot get the radio-labeled substrate, so therefore we are trying to use this 10 nucleotide as a substrate analog to study the KIEs. And the red color in the adenosine and will be specifically labeled with isotopes. And so which will give us, since the cleave is in the CN bond, so it will give us the primary KIE and also the secondary KIE. So first, the ATP, the radio-labeled ATP will be synthesized. And we start with the D-glucose. And then with several enzymes, and you will form the phosphorubisol pyrophosphate. And with the adenine ATRT transferase, adenine will be transferred to the PRTP and then give you the 5' tritium AMP. And then coupled with the myrokinase and the pyruvate kinase, and the AMP will convert it to the ATP. So the radio-labeled ATP is purified with the HPLC, and for the standard curve, you can see the adenine and the ATP can be separated well. And so for the reactions, and here is the adenine peak, and then we collect the ATP peak, and we get the purified ATP, and the yield is around 18%. So once you have the ATP, radio-labeled ATP, and with the T7 RNA polymerase, and also the DNA primer and then template, you can get the purified RNA, you can get the RNA and also purified by the gel. So since the radio-labeled substrate has a lower 0-point energy, so you will have it has a higher activating energy to reach the transition state. Therefore, it will give you the different rate. And so in a reaction, you have put the radio-labeled substrate and non-radio-labeled substrate together. And so you will, since they have a different reaction rate, so the remaining substrate will be the different. And so that's why it gives you the fraction matching. And so when you measure the KIE and you put the regulable substrate and the non-regulable substrate together, and then it will remove the enzyme will remove the adenine. And then after you quench the reaction, you can degrade the product with the base, and then you have the GMP, CMP, and also the adenine, and also ribose phosphate. After the column, the adenine and GMP, CMP will stay in the column, and only the ribose phosphate can go through the column. You collect the flow through, and you can check the count in the simulation counter. And then with this equation, you can calculate the KIE. And so here shows all the KIEs are measured. If you're using the 5' tritium RNA, it will give you the 5' tritium KIE. And if you want to get the 1' tritium KIE, you just start with the 1' tritium ATP synthesis and also the 1' tritium ATP to RNA synthesis, and you can get the 1' carbon 14 KIE. And so here, let's see what's the significance of these KIEs. And for the 1' tritium 14, and you get 5.5% KIE. And so it means there's the nucleophilic involvement in the transition state. And so for the crystal structure, we propose that there's a water at the active side to act as a base. And for the N9, the N9 KIE, and you will have the 2.4%. And so it reached to the maximum of the N15 KIE. And so here it means the CN bond will be fully cleaved. And for the N7, you will get the inverse KIE. If the KIE is less than 1, so we're calling the inverse KIE. And for the inverse KIE, so it means in the transition state, the N7 will be protonated. Because after you protonate the N7, and the vibration of the N7 will be so, the stiffness of the N7 will be the increase. That's why you have the inverse KIE. And also it makes sense since the CN bond, after the CN bond cleave, and the nitrogen will have a lot of negative charge. And so the N7 protonate of the N7 will be neutralized and delocalize the 5' bond, 5' ring. And so the other KIE, and so will tell us the bond length of and also the angles of these atoms. So next, once we get all the KIEs, and next we will look at the computational study. And for the computational study, and first you will provide the reactant and also the product with this the Gaussian software. And so let's look at the structure of here shows the substrate, and then here this product. And so if you compare these two structures, the CN bond will be cleaved. And so when we do the computational study, we're trying to draw the structure of the transition state structure, and why with the different bond lengths of the CN bond. And so it will give you the energy of this transition state structure. And if you look at all the energy, you will find the center point of for the reactant to the product. And at that point, you will see you can calculate the kinetic isotope effect with this software. And so here, once you get the distance of the bond cleave, and you can draw the transition state structure. And so with the Gaussian cube, you can have the electron potential of this